Sarah Martinez wiped down the same table for the third time. Her hands were shaking, but she tried to keep them steady. The clock on the wall showed 9:30 p.m. Rosa's diner was almost empty now. Just a few customers sat scattered around the old red booths. She had been working at the diner for 8 months now. Every day felt the same. Wake up early, serve coffee, take orders, smile at customers, go home tired. But the last 3 months had been different. She was working extra shifts, picking up every hour she could get. Her manager, Rosa, didn't ask why. She could see the fear in Sarah's eyes. Sarah touched her left arm gently. Under her long-sleeved shirt, a purple bruise was healing. It was from last week when Derek had grabbed her too hard. He said he was sorry after. He always said he was sorry. But the bruises kept coming. Derek was her husband of 2 years. In the beginning, he was sweet and caring. He brought her flowers and told her she was beautiful. But things changed after they got married. First, it was just angry words. Then it was pushing. Now it was much worse. Sarah had been saving money in a small box hidden under her bed. Every tip, every extra dollar went into that box. She counted it every night when Derek was asleep. $347 so far. She needed at least $1,000 to rent a small apartment and start over somewhere new. The bell above the diner door rang as another customer left. Sarah looked up and smiled even though she didn't feel like smiling. Being friendly meant better tips, and better tips meant getting away faster. Her phone buzzed in her apron pocket. She pulled it out and saw Derek's name on the screen. Her heart started beating faster. He had been texting her all day, asking where she was and when she would be home. She had told him she was working late, but he never believed her. The text message said, "Where are you?" "I went by the house and you're not there." Sarah's hand started shaking again. She typed back quickly, "At work. Home soon." She put the phone away and tried to focus on her work. Mrs. Patterson, an older lady who came in every Tuesday, was finishing her apple pie. Sarah walked over with a fresh cup of coffee. "You look tired, honey," Mrs. Patterson said with kind eyes. "Are you taking care of yourself?" Sarah forced another smile. "I'm fine, just working hard." Mrs. Patterson reached into her purse and pulled out a $10 bill. "The pie and coffee only cost $4. Keep the change, dear. And remember, if you ever need help, there are people who care." Sarah felt tears starting to form in her eyes. She blinked them away quickly. "Thank you, Mrs. Patterson, that's very kind." After Mrs. Patterson left, Sarah was alone with just 3 customers. Old Mr. Jimmy sat at the counter reading his newspaper like he did every night. A young couple shared a milkshake in the corner booth, and a man in a nice suit worked on his laptop by the window. Sarah's phone buzzed again. This time it was a call. Derek's name flashed on the screen. She let it go to voicemail. A minute later it buzzed again. Another call. She turned the phone off. The diner felt too quiet now. Even the radio behind the counter was playing soft music. Sarah could hear her own heartbeat. She tried to stay busy, cleaning tables that were already clean, refilling salt shakers that were already full. At 10:15 p.m., she saw headlights in the parking lot. A blue pickup truck pulled up fast and parked crooked across 2 spaces. Sarah's blood went cold. She knew that truck. It was Derek's. She watched through the window as Derek got out of the truck. Even from far away, she could tell he had been drinking. His walk was unsteady, and he slammed the truck door too hard. He stood in the parking lot for a moment, looking at the diner. Then he started walking toward the entrance. Sarah looked around quickly. The young couple had just left. Mr. Jimmy was putting on his coat. The man with the laptop was still there, but he was busy with his work. Rosa had gone home an hour ago. The night cook, Carlos, was in the kitchen in the back. Derek reached the door and grabbed the handle roughly. The bell rang loud as he pushed it open. He looked around the diner with angry eyes until he saw Sarah. His face was red and his hair was messy. "There you are," he said in a voice that was too loud for the quiet diner. "I've been looking for you." Sarah tried to keep her voice calm. "Derek, I'm working. I told you I was working late tonight." "Working late," he repeated, walking closer to her. "Or hiding from me?" Mr. Jimmy looked up from his newspaper. The man with the laptop glanced over but then looked back at his screen. Sarah wished more people were there. Derek was always worse when they were alone. "I'm not hiding," Sarah said quietly. "I'm just trying to make some extra money." Derek was close enough now that she could smell the alcohol on his breath. His eyes were bloodshot and mean. "Extra money for what?" "What are you planning, Sarah?" "Nothing." I'm not planning anything. Her voice was getting smaller. Derek grabbed her wrist, not hard enough to hurt, but hard enough to control. You think I'm stupid? You think I don't know what you're doing? Sarah looked toward the kitchen, hoping Carlos would come out. She looked at Mr. Jimmy, but he was pretending to read his newspaper. The man with the laptop kept typing. Derek, please. You're scaring me. Can we talk about this at home? I'm scaring you. Derek's voice got louder. You're my wife and you're scared of me? That's rich, Sarah, real rich. A few customers from earlier had left their money on the table. Derek saw the bills and looked at Sarah with suspicion. How much did you make tonight? Show me. Derek, I can't give you my tips. I need them for what? He squeezed her wrist tighter. For your little escape plan? Sarah felt trapped. The diner suddenly felt very small. Derek was blocking her path to the kitchen. The front door was behind him. She had nowhere to go. Her heart was pounding so hard she thought everyone could hear it. She needed help, but she didn't know how to ask for it. She was too scared to scream. Too embarrassed to make a scene. Derek leaned closer to her ear. You're coming home with me right now, and we're going to have a long talk about this attitude of yours. Sarah knew what a long talk meant. It meant yelling. It meant pushing. It meant new bruises to hide tomorrow. She closed her eyes and tried to think of a way out. That's when she noticed the man with the laptop looking at her. For just a moment, their eyes met. And in that moment, Sarah made a decision that would change everything. Sarah's heart was racing as she looked at the man with the laptop. He was maybe 40 years old, with kind eyes and dark hair. He wore a simple blue shirt and looked like someone who might help her. She had never spoken to him before, but he came to the diner sometimes and was always polite. Derek was still holding her wrist and talking in her ear. Answer me, Sarah, what are you planning with all this extra work? Without thinking, Sarah pulled away from Derek and walked quickly to the man's table. Her legs felt weak, but she kept moving. The man looked up as she approached, and she could see concern in his eyes. I'm sorry to bother you, Sarah said quietly, her voice shaking. She reached out and took the man's hand in both of hers. But could you please pretend to be my boyfriend? Just for a few minutes, please. The man looked at Sarah's frightened face, then at Derek, who was walking toward them with angry steps. He didn't ask questions. He just squeezed Sarah's hands gently and nodded. Of course, he said in a calm, steady voice. He stood up slowly, and Sarah realized he was tall, maybe 6 feet or more. Is everything okay? Derek reached the table and stared at the man. Who the hell are you? The man kept holding Sarah's hand and looked directly at Derek. I'm Michael. And you are? I'm her husband, Derek said, pointing at Sarah. And she needs to come home with me right now. Michael didn't let go of Sarah's hand. I think Sarah can decide for herself what she wants to do. Derek's face got redder. This is none of your business, buddy. Sarah, get away from him and come with me now. Sarah stood closer to Michael, feeling safer than she had in months. Derek, I'm not ready to leave yet. I'm still working. Working? Derek laughed, but it wasn't a nice laugh. Looks like you're doing something else to me. Mr. Jimmy had stopped pretending to read his newspaper and was watching everything. Michael noticed this and spoke a little louder so Mr. Jimmy could hear clearly. Sarah mentioned she was working late tonight. Michael said, I was just keeping her company until her shift ends. Derek looked back and forth between Sarah and Michael. How long have you been seeing my wife? We're just friends, Sarah said quickly. Michael comes in for coffee sometimes. Derek didn't believe her. Friends? Is that what you call it? He took a step closer to Michael. You think you can steal my wife from me? Michael stayed calm, but his voice got firmer. Nobody is stealing anyone. Sarah is an adult who can make her own choices. She's my wife, Derek said louder. She belongs with me. I don't belong to anyone, Sarah said, surprising herself with how strong her voice sounded. Derek turned to look at her with shocked, angry eyes. What did you just say? Sarah felt Michael squeeze her hand for support. I said I don't belong to anyone. I'm a person, Derek. Not a thing you own. Derek raised his hand like he was going to hit Sarah, but Michael stepped forward quickly. He was bigger than Derek and much calmer. Derek's hand stopped in the air. I don't think you want to do that, Michael said quietly. Not here. Not in front of witnesses. Derek looked around the diner. Mr. Jimmy was watching everything and had his phone in his hand. The night cook Carlos had come out of the kitchen and was standing by the counter with his arms crossed. Even though there weren't many people, Derek suddenly realized everyone was looking at him. This isn't over, Derek said to Sarah. You can play pretend with your boyfriend here, but you're still my wife. You still have to come home. Maybe not tonight, Michael said. Maybe Sarah needs some space to think. Derek laughed again, that mean laugh. Space to think? She doesn't need space. She needs to remember who she married and where she belongs. Sarah felt anger growing inside her. For months she had been quiet and scared. She had let Derek control her life and hurt her body. But standing next to Michael, feeling supported for the first time in so long, she found courage she didn't know she had. I remember exactly who I married, Sarah said. I married someone who used to be kind, someone who used to care about my feelings. But that person is gone now. Derek's eyes got narrow and mean. Watch your mouth, Sarah, or what? Sarah asked. You'll hit me again? Give me more bruises to hide? Derek looked around nervously. He realized Sarah was talking about private things in public. We're not discussing this here. Why not? Sarah's voice was getting stronger.
Are you embarrassed?
Do you not want people to know how you treat your wife? Michael was listening to everything and beginning to understand what Sarah's life was really like. He felt angry at Derek but tried to stay calm and supportive. Sarah, Michael said gently, you don't have to go anywhere you don't want to go. Derek pointed at Michael with a shaking finger. You stay out of this. This is between me and my wife. Actually, Mr. Jimmy said from his table, this is a public place, and if Sarah doesn't want to leave, she doesn't have to. Carlos nodded from behind the counter. Mr. Jimmy is right. Sarah is safe here. Derek realized he was outnumbered. In his house, he had all the control. But here, in the diner, with other people watching, he couldn't act the same way. Fine, Derek said. Stay here with your new boyfriend. But you have to come home sometime, Sarah. And when you do, we're going to have a serious conversation about your behavior. Sarah knew what serious conversation meant. It meant being alone with Derek when he was angry. It meant no one around to help her. The thought made her feel sick and scared again. Michael seemed to understand her fear. Actually, Derek, I was thinking Sarah might want to stay somewhere else tonight. Maybe with a friend. What friends? Derek asked. I know all her friends. She doesn't have anywhere else to go. That was true, and Sarah felt her hope sinking. Derek had slowly pushed away all her friends over the past 2 years. He said they were bad influences or that they didn't like him. Now she realized he had done it on purpose to keep her isolated. She has friends now, Michael said firmly. People who care about her safety and happiness. Derek stared at Michael for a long moment. Sarah could see him thinking, trying to decide what to do. Finally, he looked back at Sarah. You're making a big mistake, Derek said. But fine. Stay here tonight. Play house with your boyfriend. But tomorrow you come home and we fix this marriage properly. He turned and walked toward the door. At the last second, he spun around and pointed at Sarah. I mean it, Sarah. Tomorrow, don't make me come looking for you again. The bell rang as Derek left the diner. Through the window, they watched him get in his truck and drive away fast, tires squealing on the asphalt. Sarah collapsed into the booth across from Michael, her whole body shaking. She put her head in her hands and started to cry. Not just tears, but deep sobs that came from months of fear and pain. Michael sat down across from her and pushed a napkin toward her gently. He didn't try to touch her or tell her everything was okay. He just sat quietly and let her cry. Mr. Jimmy walked over to their table. Sarah, honey, are you all right? Sarah looked up with red, wet eyes. I'm sorry you had to see that. I'm embarrassed. Don't be embarrassed, Mr. Jimmy said kindly. You did nothing wrong. That man should be embarrassed, not you. Carlos came over too, wiping his hands on his apron. Sarah, you need help. This is not okay, Sarah nodded, still crying. I know. I've been trying to save money to leave, but it's taking so long. Michael listened to everything and felt his heart breaking for this brave woman who had asked a stranger for help. He didn't know much about her life, but he could see she was in real danger. Sarah, Michael said softly, you don't have to go through this alone. After Derek left, the diner felt different. The air seemed lighter, but Sarah still felt scared. She wiped her eyes with the napkin Michael had given her and tried to stop shaking. I'm sorry, Sarah said to everyone. I didn't mean to cause trouble. You didn't cause any trouble, Mr. Jimmy said firmly. That husband of yours did. Carlos nodded and went back to the kitchen, but Sarah could see he was keeping an eye on the front door in case Derek came back. Michael looked at Sarah with concerned eyes. How long has this been going on? Sarah didn't answer right away. She had never talked to anyone about Derek's behavior. She felt ashamed, like it was somehow her fault. Sarah, Michael said gently. You don't have to tell me anything you don't want to, but I want you to know that what just happened here was not normal. Husbands shouldn't treat their wives that way. I know, Sarah whispered. It wasn't always like this. When we first met, Derek was different. He was sweet and funny. He made me feel special. When did things change? Mr. Jimmy asked, sitting down in the booth next to them. Sarah thought about it. Maybe 6 months after we got married. First, he started getting jealous if I talked to other men, even just being polite at work. Then he didn't want me to see my friends anymore. He said they were filling my head with bad ideas about him. Michael listened carefully. He had never been married, but he had seen friends go through difficult relationships. What Sarah was describing sounded like more than just marital problems. Did he ever hurt you physically? Michael asked quietly. Sarah touched her arm where the bruise was hidden under her sleeve. Not at first. It started with grabbing my arm too hard when he was angry, then pushing. Last month She stopped talking and looked down at her hands. Last month what? Mr. Jimmy asked softly. He hit me, Sarah said so quietly they could barely hear her. He was drunk and angry about something at work. I tried to calm him down, but he hit me across the face. Hard. I had a black eye for 2 weeks. Michael felt anger growing in his chest, but he tried not to show it. Getting angry wouldn't help Sarah right now. What did you do about the black eye? He asked. I told people at work that I fell down the stairs, Sarah said, still looking at her hands. I wore makeup to cover it, but Rosa could tell. She asked me if I was safe at home, but I lied and said everything was fine. Why didn't you tell the truth? Mr. Jimmy asked. Sarah finally looked up. Because I was embarrassed. And scared. Derek always says it's my fault when he gets angry. He says if I just listened better or didn't make him mad, he wouldn't have to teach me lessons. Michael shook his head. Sarah, listen to me. None of this is your fault. Not any of it. When someone loves you, they don't hurt you. They don't hit you. They don't scare you. But we're married, Sarah said. I made vows. For better or worse, in sickness and health. I'm supposed to try to make it work. Marriage is supposed to be a partnership, Michael said. Both people should feel safe and respected. What Derek is doing to you isn't marriage. It's abuse. The word hung in the air like a heavy cloud. Sarah had thought it before, but hearing someone else say it out loud made it real. Abuse, Mar, she repeated quietly. Yes, Mr. Jimmy said. And abuse is never the victim's fault. Sarah started crying again, but these tears were different. They felt like relief, like she was finally admitting the truth about her life. I've been saving money to leave him, she said, but it's taking so long, and I'm scared he'll find me wherever I go. Michael thought about this. He had resources that could help Sarah, but he didn't want to overwhelm her or make her feel like she owed him anything. Have you thought about going to the police? He asked. Sarah shook her head quickly. Derek has friends who are police officers. He always talks about how they understand that wives sometimes need to be put in their place. I don't think they would believe me. Not all police officers think that way, Mr. Jimmy said. There are good ones who would help you. Maybe, Sarah said doubtfully. But Derek is smart. He's careful about when and where he hurts me. He never does it where people can see, and he's always sorry afterward. He brings me flowers and promises it won't happen again. Michael recognized this pattern. But it always happens again, doesn't it? Yes, Sarah admitted. And it's getting worse. Tonight, when he came in here, I really thought he might. She couldn't finish the sentence. The three of them sat quietly for a moment. Outside, the parking lot was empty except for Michael's rental car and Mr. Jimmy's old sedan. The diner felt safe and warm compared to the cold, dark world outside. Sarah, Michael said. Where were you planning to sleep tonight? Sarah's face went pale. I don't know. I can't go home. Derek will be waiting for me, and he'll be even angrier now. You have friends you could stay with? Mr. Jimmy asked. Not really. Derek made sure I lost touch with most of my friends. And the few I still talk to, he knows where they live. He would find me. Michael made a decision. There's a hotel about 10 minutes from here. Why don't you get a room for the night? Give yourself time to think about what you want to do next. Sarah shook her head. I can't afford a hotel room. I need every dollar I can save. I'll pay for it, Michael said simply. No, Sarah said quickly. I can't let you do that. You've already done too much. Sarah, Michael said gently. Letting someone help you isn't weakness. It's smart. Right now you need a safe place to sleep and time to make a plan. But I don't even know you, Sarah said. Why would you want to help me? Michael thought about how to answer that. Because everyone deserves to be safe. Because what I saw tonight was wrong. And because sometimes strangers are the only ones who can see clearly what needs to be done. Mr. Jimmy pulled out his wallet and put $40 on the table. I'm helping too. Sarah, you've served me coffee and been kind to me for months. Let me return the kindness. Sarah looked at the money, then at both men. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Michael said. Say you'll take care of yourself tonight. What about tomorrow? Sarah asked. Derek meant what he said. He'll come looking for me. Tomorrow we'll figure out a better plan, Michael said. But tonight you just need to be somewhere safe. Sarah picked up the $40 Mr. Jimmy had left on the table. Combined with her tips from that night, she had enough for a cheap hotel room. Okay, she said finally. But I'm paying you both back as soon as I can. You don't owe us anything, Michael said. Just promise me you'll be careful. And if Derek finds you or threatens you, you'll call the police. I promise, Sarah said, though she still wasn't sure she trusted the police to help her. Michael wrote his phone number on a napkin. And call me if you need anything, I mean it. Anything at all. Sarah looked at the number. I still don't understand why you're doing this. Michael smiled sadly. My mother was in a situation like yours once. I was just a kid, but I remember how scared she was. I remember wishing someone would help her. Did someone help her? Sarah asked. Eventually, yes. A teacher at my school noticed bruises on my arm and asked questions. She helped my mother find resources and a safe place to go. It saved both our lives. Sarah felt tears in her eyes again, but this time they were tears of gratitude. Thank you, she whispered. Mr. Jimmy stood up and put on his coat. Sarah, I come in here every Tuesday night. If you need anything or if you just want someone to talk to, I'll be here. Thank you, Mr. Jimmy. That means more than you know. After Mr. Jimmy left, Michael helped Sarah clean up the diner and lock up. Carlos had already gone home through the back door, trusting them to secure the front. As they walked to the parking lot, Sarah felt nervous again. Every shadow looked like it might be Derek waiting for her. He's not here, Michael said, noticing her fear. I'll follow you to the hotel and make sure you get checked in safely. You don't have to do that, Sarah said. I want to, Michael replied. Tonight you shouldn't be alone. As they drove to the hotel in separate cars, Sarah thought about everything that had happened. A few hours ago she had been trapped and hopeless. Now, because of the kindness of strangers, she had a chance to spend one night without fear. It wasn't a permanent solution, but it was a beginning, and sometimes, Sarah thought, a beginning is all you need to change everything. The hotel room was small and simple, but to Sarah it felt like a palace. For the first time in months, she could lock a door and know that Derek couldn't get to her. She sat on the edge of the bed and looked around the quiet room. There was a knock on the door, and Sarah's heart jumped. But then she heard Michael's voice. Sarah, it's me. I just wanted to make sure you're settled in okay. She opened the door and saw Michael standing in the hallway with a bag from the gas station next door. I thought you might be hungry, he said, holding up the bag. I got some sandwiches and water. Nothing fancy, but I figured you probably didn't eat much dinner. Sarah realized she was hungry. With all the fear and drama at the diner, she had forgotten about food completely. That's very thoughtful, she said. Would you like to come in? I mean, just to eat. We could sit by the table near the window. Michael nodded and came into the room. He was careful to leave the door open a little bit so Sarah would feel comfortable and safe. They sat at the small round table and unwrapped the sandwiches. Turkey and cheese, simple but filling. For a few minutes they ate in comfortable silence. Can I ask you something? Sarah said finally. Of course. Why aren't you afraid of Derek? Most people would have minded their own business tonight. Michael thought about her question while he sipped his water. I guess I've learned that bullies are usually cowards. Derek acts tough when he's picking on someone smaller than him. But when faced with real opposition, he backs down. He's not always a coward, Sarah said quietly. When we're alone, he's very dangerous. I believe you, Michael said seriously. That's why you can't go back to him. Not ever. Sarah looked out the hotel window at the parking lot below. It sounds so simple when you say it like that. Just don't go back. But it's complicated. We've been married for 2 years. We have a lease on an apartment together. Most of my things are there. My car is in his name because my credit was bad when we got it. Michael listened carefully. Those are all problems that can be solved. Things can be replaced. Paperwork can be changed. But you can't replace your life if Derek seriously hurts you. I know you're right, Sarah said, but I'm scared. What if I leave and can't make it on my own? What if I don't have enough money? What if he finds me? Those are all reasonable fears, Michael said. But let me ask you this. What scares you more? The unknown future without Derek, or staying with him and knowing things will only get worse? Sarah thought about that question. When she really considered it, the answer was clear. Staying with him, she admitted. Last week when he hit me, there was a moment when I thought he might not stop. I saw something in his eyes that was different. More violent. Michael felt cold when he heard this. Sarah, that's exactly why you need to get out now, before that moment comes again. They finished eating and talked more about Sarah's situation. She told Michael about her dreams of going back to nursing school. She had been studying to be a nurse when she met Derek, but he convinced her to quit and focus on being a wife instead. I was really good at it, Sarah said with a sad smile. I loved helping people feel better. I wanted to work in a hospital or maybe with children. You could still do that, Michael said. It's not too late to go back to school. Maybe someday. But right now I just need to focus on surviving and getting away from Derek. Michael wanted to tell Sarah that he could help her pay for school, that money didn't have to be a barrier to her dreams. But he didn't want to overwhelm her with too much help too fast. She needed to feel like she was making her own choices. Tell me about your work, Sarah said, changing the subject. You're always on your laptop at the diner. Are you a writer or something? Michael hesitated. He hadn't told anyone in this small town about his real job or how much money he had. He liked being seen as just a regular person. I work in technology, he said, which was true. I help companies with their computer systems. That sounds interesting. Do you travel a lot for work? Sometimes. I was supposed to leave town last week, but I decided to stay longer. I like it here. The people are friendly. What Michael didn't say was that he had extended his stay because he enjoyed his conversations with Sarah at the diner. Even before tonight's crisis, he had been drawn to her kindness and genuine smile. Where do you live when you're not traveling? Sarah asked. California, Michael said. Near San Francisco. It's nice, but busy. Sometimes it's good to be in a quieter place like this. Sarah nodded. I've never been to California. I've actually never been anywhere very far from here. Derek doesn't like to travel, and before him I never had the money. What places would you like to see? Michael asked. Sarah's eyes got a dreamy look. I'd love to see the ocean. I've only seen it in pictures and movies. I think it would be peaceful to sit on a beach and listen to the waves. The ocean is amazing, Michael said. It has a way of making your problems feel smaller, like you're part of something much bigger than your everyday worries. They talked about travel and dreams until almost midnight. Michael learned that Sarah loved to read, but Derek didn't like her wasting time with books. She used to garden with her grandmother before she died, but Derek said gardens were too much work. She had always wanted to learn to paint, but Derek said art was useless. Michael began to see how Derek had slowly taken away everything that made Sarah happy. It was another form of control, making sure she had no interests or joys outside of pleasing him. Sarah, Michael said gently, do you realize how many dreams Derek has made you give up? Sarah was quiet for a moment. I guess I hadn't thought about it like that, but you're right. I used to have hobbies and interests. Now I just work and go home and try not to make Derek angry. That's not a life, Michael said. That's just surviving. What about you? Sarah asked. What do you like to do when you're not working? Michael smiled. I like hiking and being outdoors. I read a lot, mostly books about history and science. I volunteer sometimes at a shelter for families in crisis. A shelter? Yes. It's a place where women and children can stay when they're not safe at home. They get counseling and help finding jobs and permanent housing. Sarah felt her heart speed up. You mean there are places like that? Places where women like me can go? Absolutely, Michael said. There are shelters and programs designed specifically to help people in your situation. They have security and legal help and job training. Everything you need to start over safely. For the first time since Derek had walked into the diner, Sarah felt real hope. How do I find places like that? I can help you research options tomorrow, Michael said. But Sarah, there's something important you need to know. When you decide to leave Derek, you have to be very careful. The most dangerous time for a woman in an abusive relationship is when she tries to leave. Sarah felt scared again. What do you mean? Men like Derek don't like losing control. When they realize their victim is really leaving, they sometimes become desperate and violent. You'll need to have a safety plan. A safety plan? A detailed plan for how to leave safely, where you'll go, what you'll take with you, how to avoid being followed. The shelter can help you make this plan. Sarah felt overwhelmed again. It sounds so complicated and scary. It is complicated, Michael admitted. But thousands of women do it successfully every year. You're not the first person to be in this situation, and you won't be the last. There are people who know exactly how to help you. They sat quietly for a while, both thinking about everything they had discussed. Outside, the hotel parking lot was empty and peaceful. Michael, Sarah said finally, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be honest. Okay? Why are you really helping me? I mean, you don't know me, I'm just a waitress with problems. What do you get out of this? Michael looked at Sarah's sincere, worried face. I don't get anything out of it, Sarah, and that's exactly why I'm helping. Because it's the right thing to do, not because I expect something in return. But surely you have your own life to worry about, your own problems. Everyone has problems, Michael said. But not everyone has a husband who hits them. Your problems are more urgent than mine right now. Sarah felt tears starting again. I'm not used to people being kind without wanting something back. Derek has taught you to think that way, Michael said softly. But most people in the world are good. They help each other simply because it's right. I want to believe that, Sarah said. You will, Michael promised. Once you're away from Derek and safe, you'll start to remember what normal, healthy relationships look like. Sarah stood up and walked to the window. The night was clear, and she could see stars in the sky. Tomorrow I have to make some big decisions, she said. Yes, you do, but you don't have to make them alone. I'll help you research your options, and I'll support whatever you decide to do. Sarah turned around and looked at Michael. What if I'm not brave enough? What if I get scared and go back to him? Then I'll still be your friend, Michael said. But Sarah, you've already shown incredible bravery tonight. You asked a stranger for help when you were in danger. That took courage. Sarah nodded slowly. I guess it did. Get some sleep, Michael said, standing up to leave. Tomorrow we'll start making a plan for your new life. After Michael left, Sarah locked the door and got ready for bed. As she lay in the unfamiliar bed, she felt something she hadn't felt in a very long time. Sarah woke up the next morning feeling different. Sunlight came through the hotel curtains, and for a moment she forgot where she was. Then she remembered everything. Derek at the diner, Michael's help sleeping somewhere safe. She looked at the clock. It was 9:30 a.m. She was supposed to work the morning shift at the diner, but she had called Rosa late last night to explain she needed a few days off for a family emergency. Rosa didn't ask questions, just told Sarah to take care of herself. There was a gentle knock on the door. Sarah looked through the peephole and saw Michael holding 2 coffee cups and a bag from the bakery down the street. Good morning, he said when she opened the door. I thought you might like breakfast. You didn't have to do that, Sarah said, but she was grateful. She had been wondering how she would eat without spending her saved money. I know I didn't have to, Michael said. I wanted to. They sat at the same table as the night before. Michael had brought coffee, fresh muffins, and fruit. It was the nicest breakfast Sarah had eaten in months. How did you sleep? Michael asked. Better than I have in a long time, Sarah admitted. I forgot what it felt like to not be afraid at night. Good. You deserve to feel safe when you sleep. As they ate, Michael pulled out his laptop. I spent some time this morning researching shelters and programs in this area. I found 3 good options within 50 miles of here. Sarah felt nervous but excited. What kind of options? There's a women's shelter about 30 miles away that specializes in domestic violence cases. They provide temporary housing, counseling, legal help, and job training. They also help women find permanent housing and get back on their feet. How long can someone stay there? Sarah asked. Usually between 30 and 90 days, depending on individual needs. And they have a good success rate. Most women who complete their program never go back to abusive relationships. Sarah felt hope growing in her chest. What about the other options? There's a program that helps women get restraining orders and legal protection. And there's a job training center that teaches skills like computer work and medical assisting. Medical assisting? Sarah's eyes lit up. That's related to nursing. Exactly. You could use it as a stepping stone to get back into healthcare. Sarah stared at the laptop screen, looking at information about programs designed to help people exactly like her. This all sounds too good to be true. It's real, Sarah. These programs exist because there are many women in situations like yours. You're not alone. They spent the morning learning about Sarah's options. Michael helped her understand the application processes and what she would need to do to get into each program. The shelter has a waiting list, Michael explained, but they prioritize women who are in immediate danger. Based on what you told me about Derek's recent behavior, I think you would qualify. What would I need to do to apply? We could call them today and do a phone interview. If they have space, you could go there as soon as tomorrow. Sarah felt scared and excited at the same time. What about Derek? What if he tries to find me? The shelter's location is confidential, and they have security measures to keep residents safe. Derek wouldn't be able to get to you there. But what about after? When I have to leave the shelter and live on my own? Michael understood her fear. That's where the legal help comes in. You can get a restraining order that makes it illegal for Derek to come near you, and there are programs that help women find safe housing with new identities if necessary. Sarah had never imagined there were so many resources available to help her. Why didn't I know about any of this before? Derek probably made sure you didn't know. Abusive partners often isolate their victims from information that could help them escape. That afternoon, Sarah called the domestic violence shelter. The woman who answered was kind and understanding. She asked Sarah questions about her situation and safety concerns. We have 1 bed available right now, the woman said. If you can get here by tomorrow afternoon, we can get you checked in and started in our program. Sarah felt her heart racing. This was really happening. She could actually leave Derek and start over somewhere safe. What do I need to bring? Sarah asked. Just yourself and any important documents you have. ID, birth certificate, social security card. We provide everything else you need. After Sarah hung up, she realized she had a problem. All her important documents were at the apartment she shared with Derek. I have to go back to the house, she told Michael. I need my papers. Michael looked worried. That's dangerous, Sarah. What if Derek is there? He works during the day. If I go now, he shouldn't be home until tonight. I don't like it. Can't you get copies of those documents later? Maybe, but it would take weeks. And I need them to get into the shelter program. Michael thought for a moment. Okay, but I'm going with you. We'll be quick. Get in, get your things, and get out. You don't have to do that. Yes, I do. I'm not letting you face Derek alone if he comes home early. They drove to Sarah's apartment in Michael's rental car. It was a small, run-down building on the edge of town. Sarah felt sick to her stomach as they pulled up. That's Derek's truck, she said, pointing to the blue pickup in the parking lot. He's home. He never comes home during the day. Maybe he's sick, Michael suggested. Or maybe he's waiting for me, Sarah said, her voice shaking. Michael parked across the street where they could watch the building. We'll wait and see if he leaves. If not, we'll figure out another plan. They sat in the car for 20 minutes, watching Sarah's apartment window. Finally, Derek came out of the building. He looked angry and was talking loudly on his phone. He got in his truck and drove away fast. Now's our chance, Michael said. They hurried into the building and up the stairs to Sarah's apartment. She used her key to open the door and they quickly went inside. The apartment was a mess. Derek had thrown things around, probably looking for clues about where Sarah had gone. Her clothes were scattered on the bedroom floor, and papers were everywhere. Get what you need as fast as you can, Michael said, keeping watch by the window. Sarah found her important documents in a box under the bed. She also grabbed some clothes and a few personal items that meant something to her. A photo of her grandmother, a book her grandmother had given her, and a small jewelry box. As she packed, Sarah looked around the apartment that had been her prison for 2 years. She realized she felt no sadness about leaving. Only relief. "I'm ready," she said after 10 minutes. They were walking down the stairs when Sarah heard a familiar voice in the parking lot. Derek was back and he was talking to their neighbor, Mrs. Chen. "Have you seen Sarah today?" Derek was asking. "She didn't come home last night and I'm worried about her." Sarah and Michael froze on the stairs. They were trapped between Derek outside and no other way out of the building. "We have to wait until he goes back inside," Michael whispered. But Derek didn't go inside. Instead, he started walking toward the building entrance. Sarah could hear his footsteps getting closer. "This way," Sarah whispered, pulling Michael toward a door marked "Stairs to Roof." They climbed quietly to the roof of the building. From there, they could see Derek entering the building below. Sarah's heart was pounding so loud she was sure Derek could hear it. They waited on the roof for what felt like hours but was probably only 20 minutes. Finally, they heard Derek's truck start and drive away again. "He'll be back," Sarah said. "He won't give up easily." They climbed back down and left the building quickly. As they drove away, Sarah felt like she was leaving her old life behind forever. "You did it," Michael said. "You got your documents and some of your things. Tomorrow you'll be safe at the shelter." Sarah looked at the small bag of belongings in her lap. It wasn't much, but it was enough to start over. That evening, Michael took Sarah out for a real dinner at a restaurant across town, far from places Derek might look for her. It was the first time Sarah had eaten at a nice restaurant in 2 years. "This feels like a celebration," Sarah said, looking at the menu. "It is a celebration," Michael said. "You're celebrating your freedom." As they ate, Sarah talked about her hopes for the future. She wanted to finish her nursing degree, find a job helping people, maybe travel to see the ocean someday. "All of those things are possible now," Michael said. "You're going to have a good life, Sarah." "What about you?" Sarah asked. "When will you go back to California?" Michael had been thinking about that question all day. "I'm not sure. I might stay around a little longer." "Why?" Michael smiled. "Maybe I like the coffee at Rosa's Diner. Or maybe I want to make sure my friend Sarah gets settled safely in her new life." Sarah felt tears in her eyes, but this time they were happy tears. "I don't know how to thank you for everything you've done." "You don't have to thank me. Just promise me you'll never go back to Derek. No matter how scared you get or how much he promises to change." "I promise," Sarah said, and she meant it. The next morning, Michael drove Sarah to the women's shelter. As they pulled up to the secure building, Sarah felt nervous but determined. "This is really happening," she said. "Yes, it is. You're about to start the best chapter of your life." Sarah hugged Michael goodbye at the shelter entrance. "Will I see you again?" "I hope so," Michael said. "Take care of yourself, Sarah. You deserve all the happiness in the world." 3 months had passed since Sarah entered the women's shelter. Her life had changed completely. She felt safe, was learning new job skills, and had started taking online classes to finish her nursing degree. The shelter was like a small community of women helping each other heal and rebuild their lives. Sarah had a roommate named Lisa, who had escaped from her abusive boyfriend 6 months earlier. Lisa was now working as a receptionist at a medical office and was about to move into her own apartment. "You look happier every day," Lisa said one morning as they got ready for their job training classes. "I feel happier," Sarah admitted. "I didn't realize how heavy fear was until I wasn't carrying it anymore." Sarah had been working part-time at a medical office, learning to be a medical assistant. The work was similar to nursing, and she loved helping patients feel comfortable and cared for. Her supervisor, Dr. Martinez, had already told Sarah she could have a full-time job when she finished the training program. The shelter had also helped Sarah get a restraining order against Derek. He had tried to find her several times in the first month, even showing up at Rosa's Diner to question her former co-workers. But the police had warned him to stay away, and he seemed to have given up looking for her. Michael had kept in touch through phone calls and text messages. He was back in California now, but he called Sarah every few weeks to check on her progress. Their conversations were always encouraging and warm. "I'm proud of you," Michael had said in their last phone call. "You've built a whole new life for yourself." "I couldn't have done it without your help," Sarah had replied. "You could have," Michael said. "Maybe it would have taken longer, but you would have found a way." You're stronger than you know. Sarah was grateful for Michael's friendship, but she sometimes wondered about him. He had been so generous with his time and help, but he never talked much about his own life. She knew he worked in technology and lived in California, but that was about all. One Tuesday evening, Sarah was visiting Rosa's diner. She had stayed in touch with her former boss and co-workers, and she liked to stop by sometimes to say hello. Mr. Jimmy was there, as always reading his newspaper and drinking coffee. "Sarah," Rosa called out when she walked in. "How are you, honey?" "You look wonderful." Sarah did look wonderful. She had gained some healthy weight. Her hair was shiny, and most importantly, the constant worry was gone from her eyes. "I'm doing great, Rosa. The job training is going well, and I should be able to move into my own apartment next month." "I'm so proud of you," Rosa said, giving Sarah a hug. "You're like a different person than you were a few months ago." Sarah sat down with Mr. Jimmy, who was always happy to see her. "Any word from that young man who helped you?" Mr. Jimmy asked. "Michael, wasn't it? He calls sometimes to check on me. He's back in California now." "He was a good man," Mr. Jimmy said. "Not many people would have gotten involved the way he did." Sarah agreed. She often thought about that night and how different her life might be if Michael hadn't been there. As they talked, the television in the corner caught Sarah's attention. A news program was showing a story about successful business people in California. Sarah's heart stopped when she saw a familiar face on the screen. It was Michael. But the man on TV wasn't described as just someone who worked in technology. The reporter was calling him Michael Chen, CEO and founder of Chen Technologies, one of the fastest-growing software companies in the country. Sarah stared at the screen in shock. The news story talked about Michael's company being worth over $1 billion. It showed pictures of him at business meetings and charity events. He was described as one of the youngest billionaires in America. "Mr. Jimmy," Sarah said quietly, pointing at the TV. "That's Michael, the man who helped me." Mr. Jimmy looked at the screen and his eyes got wide. "Well, I'll be. Your friend Michael is famous." Sarah felt confused and a little hurt. Michael had never told her he was wealthy. He had presented himself as just a regular businessman. Why had he lied to her? Rosa came over to see what they were looking at. "Oh my," she said when she saw the news story. "He seemed like such a normal, down-to-earth person when he was here." Sarah continued watching the news report. It mentioned that Michael was known for his charitable work, especially with organizations that helped families in crisis. The reporter said he had donated millions of dollars to domestic violence shelters and programs for abuse survivors. Now everything made sense. Michael's knowledge about shelters and resources, his calm confidence when dealing with Derek, his ability to help Sarah without worrying about money. He wasn't just a kind stranger. He was someone who made helping people like her his life's work. But Sarah felt betrayed. Had their friendship been real, or was she just another charity case to him? That night Sarah couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about all the conversations she'd had with Michael. Had he been pretending to be someone he wasn't? Did he see her as an equal or just someone to pity and help? The next morning Sarah called Michael. She hadn't planned what to say, but she needed answers. "Sarah, how nice to hear from you," Michael said when he answered. "How are things going?" "I saw you on the news last night," Sarah said directly. There was a long silence on the other end of the phone. "I see," Michael said finally. "Were you planning to tell me the truth about who you are?" Sarah asked. "I wanted to," Michael said, "but I was afraid it would change things between us." "Change things how?" Michael sighed. "Sarah, most people treat me differently when they find out about my money. They either want something from me, or they feel like they can't be themselves around me. I liked that you saw me as just Michael, a regular person who cared about you." Sarah felt some of her anger fading, but she was still hurt. "But you lied to me." "I didn't lie," Michael said gently. "I just didn't tell you everything. I do work in technology. I did want to help you. Everything I said about caring about your safety and future was completely true. But all those times I worried about taking your help, about not being able to pay you back. You knew money wasn't a problem for you." "Yes," Michael admitted. "And I should have handled that better. I'm sorry, Sarah. I was trying to let you keep your dignity and independence, but I realize now that keeping secrets wasn't the right way to do that." Sarah thought about this. Did you help me because you actually cared about me as a person, Or because helping abuse victims is just something you do? Both, Michael said honestly. I do support domestic violence organizations because I believe it's important. But Sarah, I helped you that night because I saw someone in danger and I couldn't walk away. The connection we developed afterward was real. You became important to me as a person, not as a cause. How do I know that's true? Sarah asked. Because I could help thousands of people without ever getting personally involved. I could write checks to organizations and never meet the people who benefit. But with you, I wanted to be involved. I wanted to know how you were doing. I wanted to be your friend. Sarah considered this. Looking back on their conversations, Michael had always seemed genuinely interested in her thoughts and feelings. He had listened to her dreams and encouraged her goals. That couldn't all have been fake. I wish you had trusted me enough to tell me the truth, Sarah said. You're right, Michael said. I should have trusted you. I'm sorry I didn't. They talked for another hour. Michael explained more about his life and his work. He told Sarah about growing up poor with his single mother, and how their experience with domestic violence had shaped his desire to help others. Money changed my circumstances, Michael said. But it didn't change who I am inside. I'm still the same person who sat with you in that hotel room and listened to your fears. By the end of the conversation, Sarah felt better. She was still processing the revelation about Michael's wealth, but she believed him when he said their friendship was genuine. What happens now? Sarah asked. That's up to you, Michael said. I hope we can still be friends. I hope you can forgive me for not being completely honest from the beginning. I need some time to think about everything, Sarah said. Of course. Take all the time you need. But Sarah, I want you to know that I'm proud of you no matter what. You've built an amazing new life for yourself, and that has nothing to do with my money. That's all your strength and courage. After they hung up, Sarah sat quietly in her room at the shelter. She thought about how much her life had changed since that scary night at the diner. She had learned to be independent and strong. She had made new friends and found work she loved. Whether Michael was a regular businessman or a billionaire didn't change what she had accomplished. She had saved herself. Michael had helped. But the real work of rebuilding her life had been hers to do. Lisa came into the room and found Sarah looking thoughtful. Everything okay? Lisa asked. I just learned something surprising about a friend, Sarah said. But I think it's going to be okay. Good friends are hard to find, Lisa said. When you find someone who really cares about you, hold on to them. Sarah nodded. She was beginning to think that Michael's wealth didn't matter as much as his character. He had been kind, respectful, and supportive. Those were the qualities that made him a good friend, not his bank account. That evening, Sarah called Michael back. I've been thinking about our conversation, she said when he answered. After learning the truth about Michael's wealth, Sarah felt confused about their friendship. She spent several days thinking about what it meant and whether their connection had been genuine. The more she thought about it, the more she questioned everything. One evening at the shelter, Sarah was talking to her counselor, Dr. Williams, about her feelings. I feel like I don't know what was real and what wasn't, Sarah said. When someone has that much money, how can you tell if they truly care about you, or if you're just a charity project? Dr. Williams nodded, understanding. That's a valid concern, Sarah. Trust is complicated, especially when you're healing from an abusive relationship where someone you loved betrayed that trust repeatedly. Exactly. Derek used to lie to me all the time, and I believed him because I wanted to believe him. What if I'm doing the same thing with Michael? What does your gut tell you about Michael's intentions? Dr. Williams asked. Sarah thought about it carefully. When I'm talking to him on the phone, it feels real. He remembers details about my life, asks about my classes and my work. He seems genuinely interested in my thoughts and opinions. But you're still worried. I'm worried that I'm being naive again, that I'm seeing what I want to see instead of what's really there. Dr. Williams smiled gently. Sarah, the fact that you're asking these questions shows how much you've grown. 6 months ago, you would have just accepted whatever someone told you. Now you're thinking critically and protecting yourself. That's healthy. So what should I do? Maybe you should step back from the friendship for a while. Give yourself some space to see how you feel when you're not in contact with Michael. If the friendship is real, it will survive some distance. Sarah decided to follow Dr. Williams's advice. She stopped answering Michael's calls and didn't respond to his text messages. At first, he called and texted more frequently, worried that something was wrong. After a week, his messages became less frequent but didn't stop entirely. Hi, Sarah, I hope you're okay. I'm not sure why you're not answering, but I want you to know I'm here if you need anything. Take care of yourself. Sarah read each message but didn't respond. She wanted to see what Michael would do if she didn't give him the gratitude and friendship he was probably expecting. 2 weeks passed. Sarah focused on her job training and her online classes. She was doing well in both and felt proud of her independence. She was almost ready to move out of the shelter and into her own apartment. Then something unexpected happened. Sarah was at work at the medical office when Dr. Martinez called her into his office. "Sarah, I have some interesting news," Dr. Martinez said. "Someone has anonymously paid your tuition for nursing school." Sarah felt her stomach drop. "What do you mean?" "The nursing program you've been taking online classes for. Someone paid the full tuition for the rest of your degree. The school called to let you know that your account is completely paid up." Sarah knew immediately who had done this. "Did they tell you who paid it?" "No, they said the donor requested complete anonymity. All they would say is that it was someone who believes in your potential and wants to support your education." Sarah felt angry and confused. After she had stopped talking to Michael, he had gone behind her back and paid for her schooling. Was this his way of trying to control her? Or was it genuine generosity? "There's more," Dr. Martinez continued. "The same anonymous donor has created a scholarship fund for women who are returning to school after leaving abusive relationships. The scholarship will help 10 women each year complete their education." Sarah felt overwhelmed. This wasn't just about her. Michael had created a whole program to help other women in similar situations. That evening, Sarah finally called Michael back. "Sarah," Michael said when he answered, clearly relieved to hear from her. "I was worried about you. Are you okay?" "I know what you did," Sarah said. There was a pause. "I'm not sure what you mean." "The tuition, Michael. And the scholarship fund." Michael sighed. "How did you find out?" "The school told my supervisor about the anonymous payment. It wasn't hard to figure out who would do something like that." "Are you angry?" Michael asked quietly. Sarah realized she wasn't angry exactly. She was confused and a little frustrated, but not angry. "I don't know what I am," Sarah said honestly. "Why did you do it?" "Because education shouldn't be limited by money," Michael said. "You're smart and hardworking, and you deserve the chance to finish your degree. As for the scholarship fund, I've been planning something like that for months. Your situation just reminded me how urgent the need is. But I stopped talking to you. Why would you help someone who was ignoring you?" Michael was quiet for a moment before answering. "Because my caring about your success isn't conditional on you being my friend. Sarah, I want good things for you whether we talk every day or never speak again." This answer surprised Sarah. In her experience with Derek, love and support always came with strings attached. If she didn't do what Derek wanted, he withdrew his affection and became mean. "You really mean that?" Sarah asked. "I do. Look, I understand why you pulled away after learning about my money. I probably would have done the same thing in your situation. But I want you to know that my friendship isn't dependent on your gratitude or your attention." "I was testing you," Sarah admitted. "I wanted to see what you would do if I stopped giving you the friendship you probably expected in return for your help." "And what did you discover?" Michael asked, not sounding offended by her test. "That you kept caring even when I didn't give you anything back. That's what real caring looks like. Sarah, it's not a transaction where I give you help and you owe me friendship in return. I help because it's right and I'm your friend because I enjoy your company." Sarah felt tears starting in her eyes. "Derek always said I owed him things. My time, my attention, my obedience. He said that's what wives were supposed to give their husbands." "Derek was wrong about a lot of things," Michael said gently. "Healthy relationships aren't based on debt and obligation. They're based on choice. Every day, two people choose to care about each other because they want to, not because they have to." "I'm still learning what healthy relationships look like," Sarah said. "That's okay. It takes time to unlearn the things Derek taught you about love and friendship. Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "If I decide I don't want to be your friend anymore, would you be okay with that?" Michael thought about her question seriously. "I would be disappointed because I value our friendship. But yes, I would be okay with it. I would respect your choice and continue to wish you well from a distance." Sarah realized this was exactly the answer she needed to hear. Derek would have threatened her or punished her for even suggesting she might not want him in her life. Michael was giving her complete freedom to choose. I do want to be your friend, Sarah said. But I need you to understand something. What's that? I need to feel like I'm contributing something to this friendship too. Right now it feels very one-sided. You're always giving and I'm always taking. What would you like to contribute? Michael asked. Sarah thought about it. I'm not sure yet. I don't have money or resources like you do, but I must have something to offer. Sarah, you've already given me a lot. You've shared your story with me, which helps me understand what the women my foundation serves are really going through. You've shown me what courage looks like. And honestly, you've become one of the most genuine people I know. In my world, surrounded by business deals and people who want things from me, your honesty is refreshing. Really? Really, you see me as Michael, not as a bank account. That's rarer than you might think. Sarah felt better after this conversation. She began to understand that friendship didn't have to be about equal financial contributions. She could offer emotional support, honest advice, and genuine caring. Those things had value too. Over the next few weeks, Sarah and Michael rebuilt their friendship on a new foundation. Sarah felt more confident about setting boundaries and expressing her needs. Michael was more open about his life and included Sarah in decisions about his charitable work. I'm thinking about expanding the domestic violence programs, Michael told Sarah during one of their calls. But I want to make sure we're addressing the real needs. What do you think would have been most helpful to you when you were trying to leave Derek? Sarah appreciated being asked for her opinion. Legal help was huge, she said, and safe transportation. I was terrified Derek would follow me or find me during the transition period. Those are good points. What else? Job training that leads to actual employment. The shelter was great, but I was worried about what would happen after I left. Having a guaranteed job made all the difference. Michael took notes on everything Sarah said. Later, she learned that her suggestions had been incorporated into the foundation's new programs. Their friendship became more balanced as Sarah grew more confident in herself. She started giving Michael advice about his personal life and challenging him when she disagreed with his decisions. You work too much, Sarah told him during one call when he mentioned being in his office until midnight again. I have a lot of responsibilities, Michael said. Everyone has responsibilities, but you also need to take care of yourself. When's the last time you took a vacation or spent time with friends? Michael realized he couldn't answer that question. It's been 2 years after that frightening night at Rosa's diner. Sarah stood in her cap and gown, looking out at the crowd of people who had come to watch her graduate from nursing school. It had been a long journey, but she had finally achieved her dream of becoming a registered nurse. In the audience, she spotted familiar faces. Rosa from the diner was there, beaming with pride. Mr. Jimmy sat in the third row wearing his best suit. Dr. Martinez had closed the medical office early so he and the entire staff could attend. Lisa, her former roommate from the shelter, had driven 3 hours to be there. And in the back, trying not to draw attention to himself, was Michael. He had flown in from California specifically for Sarah's graduation, though he had asked Sarah not to make a big deal about his presence. I just want to be there to celebrate with everyone else, he had said when Sarah invited him. Sarah's name was called, and she walked across the stage to receive her diploma. As she shook hands with the dean of the nursing school, she thought about how different her life was now compared to 2 years ago. She was no longer afraid. She lived in a nice apartment that she had chosen and paid for herself. She had genuine friendships with people who respected her boundaries and supported her goals. Most importantly, she had learned to value herself and demand to be treated with kindness and respect. After the graduation ceremony, everyone gathered at a small restaurant to celebrate. Sarah looked around the table at the people who had become her chosen family. These were people who had stood by her during the hardest time of her life and celebrated her victories along the way. I want to say something, Sarah announced, standing up with her glass of sparkling cider. Everyone at the table got quiet and looked at her expectantly. 2 years ago, I thought my life was over, Sarah began. I was trapped in a marriage that was destroying me, and I couldn't see any way out. I felt hopeless and alone. She looked around the table at each person. But I wasn't alone even though I didn't know it at the time. Each of you played a part in helping me build the life I have now. She turned to Rosa first. Rosa, you gave me a job when I needed one, and you never asked questions when you could see I was struggling. You made the diner a safe place for me to work. Rosa wiped tears from her eyes and nodded. Mr. Jimmy, you were there on the scariest night of my life, and you didn't look away when I needed help. You showed me that there are good people in the world who will stand up for what's right." Mr. Jimmy smiled and patted Sarah's hand. "Dr. Martinez, you believed in my potential and gave me the chance to learn and grow professionally. You showed me that I could have a career I loved." Dr. Martinez raised his glass in a small toast. Sarah looked at Michael, who was sitting quietly at the end of the table. "Michael, you taught me the difference between someone who helps to control and someone who helps to liberate. You showed me what healthy friendship looks like." Michael smiled but remained humble, not wanting to take too much credit for Sarah's achievements. "And Lisa," Sarah continued, looking at her friend from the shelter, "you showed me that it was possible to rebuild your life after leaving an abusive relationship. You were living proof that there was hope for the future." Finally, Sarah raised her glass. "Thank you all for helping me remember who I was and who I could become. I couldn't have done this without you." Everyone at the table raised their glasses and toasted Sarah's success. As the evening went on, Sarah found herself talking privately with Michael outside the restaurant. "How does it feel?" Michael asked. "Being a registered nurse?" "It feels like coming home," Sarah said. "This is what I was meant to do with my life. I can't believe I almost gave up on this dream." "Derek wanted you to give up on your dreams because he was threatened by your potential," Michael said. "He knew that if you achieved your goals, you would realize you didn't need him." Sarah nodded. "I understand that now. But at the time, I thought I was just being a supportive wife." They walked quietly for a moment, enjoying the warm evening air. "Can I tell you something?" Sarah asked. "Of course. I used to be angry that it took me so long to leave Derek. I thought I was weak for staying as long as I did. And now? Now I realize that I left when I was ready and able to leave safely. Everyone's timeline is different. I stayed until I had the courage and the opportunity to ask for help." Michael smiled. "That's a very wise way to look at it." "I've been thinking about doing some volunteer work," Sarah said. "Maybe at a domestic violence shelter, helping other women who are going through what I went through. That sounds like a perfect way to use your experience to help others. Would your foundation be interested in partnering on something like that?" Sarah asked. "I have ideas about programs that could help women transition from the shelter back into independent life." Michael's eyes lit up. "I'd love to hear your ideas. You have insights that would be incredibly valuable." Over the following months, Sarah began working with Michael's foundation to develop new programs for domestic violence survivors. She used her own experience and her nursing skills to create support groups and educational programs. The work was challenging, but fulfilling. Sarah found that helping other women gave her life even more meaning than she had expected. One day, she was facilitating a support group when a new woman joined the group. The woman was quiet and scared, with bruises she tried to hide with makeup. She reminded Sarah of herself 2 years earlier. "I don't know if I can really leave him," the woman said during the group discussion. "We've been together for 5 years. What if I can't make it on my own?" Sarah looked at this woman with compassion and understanding. "I used to think the same thing," she said gently. "I was with my abusive husband for 2 years and I was terrified of leaving." "What changed your mind?" the woman asked. "I met some people who showed me that there was a different way to live. People who treated me with kindness and respect, who believed in my ability to have a better life." "Do you think I could have a better life?" Sarah smiled. "I know you can. It won't be easy, and it will take time, but you have the strength inside you to build whatever kind of life you want." After the support group ended, Sarah thought about how far she had come. She was now the person offering hope and encouragement to others who were trapped in the same situation she had once been in. That evening, Sarah called Michael to update him on the programs they were developing together. "The support groups are going really well," she told him. "We had 8 women attend this week, and 3 of them are ready to start job training programs." "That's wonderful," Michael said. "Your approach of combining emotional support with practical skills training is making a real difference. I keep thinking about something you told me 2 years ago," Sarah said. "What's that?" "You said that sometimes strangers are the only ones who can see clearly what needs to be done. You were a stranger who saw clearly that I needed help and you weren't afraid to get involved. And now you're doing the same thing for other women," Michael pointed out. "Exactly. It's like passing on a gift that was given to me." 6 months later, Sarah received a call that changed everything. Michael was coming to town to visit the programs they had developed together. But he had something else to discuss with her. They met at Rosa's diner, the place where their friendship had begun. Rosa made a fuss over both of them, proud of the work they were doing to help other women. "I have something to tell you," Michael said as they sat in the same booth where Sarah had once grabbed his hand in desperation. "What is it?" Sarah asked. "I've been thinking about making some changes in my life. I've built my company to the point where it can run without me being involved in every detail. I'm considering moving here permanently and focusing more on the foundation work." Sarah was surprised. "You want to leave California?" "I want to be closer to the work that matters most to me. And honestly, I want to be closer to the people who matter most to me." Sarah felt her heart skip a beat. Over the past 2 years, her friendship with Michael had deepened into something more, though neither of them had spoken about it directly. "Sarah," Michael continued, "I know we started as friends in a crisis situation, but what I feel for you now is much more than friendship." Sarah looked into Michael's eyes and saw the same kindness and respect that had drawn her to him from the beginning. But now there was something deeper there too. "I feel the same way," Sarah admitted, "but I want you to know that I don't need you to take care of me anymore. If we're going to be together, it has to be as equals." "I wouldn't want it any other way," Michael said. "You've become one of the strongest people I know, Sarah. I don't want to take care of you, I want to build a life with you." Sarah smiled. "I think I'd like that too." 1 year later, Sarah and Michael were married in a small ceremony at the shelter where Sarah had once lived. The wedding was attended by all the people who had supported them on their individual journeys of growth and healing. Rosa catered the reception. Mr. Jimmy walked Sarah down the aisle since she had no family of her own. Dr. Martinez and the medical office staff were there, along with Lisa and many of the women from Sarah's support groups. The wedding was simple and meaningful, focused on celebrating the love and partnership Sarah and Michael had built together. In her wedding speech, Sarah talked about how love should make you feel